Hotel Belgrave stood tall on the edge of town, a faded grandeur tucked between forgotten alleyways and dim-lit diners. No one paid much attention to it, that is, until 3 disappearances happened in 3 months all. From room 305, Detective Arman Malik leaned back in his chair, staring at the crime board plastered with faces, receipts, and a room key card. The pattern was undeniable. Each guest checked into room 305 on a Sunday evening. Each vanished by Monday morning. No trace, no checkout, no calls, not even a security alert. The strangest detail, the CCTV system newly installed and perfectly functioning would always lose power for exactly 4 hours. From 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., only on that floor, only on that night. Hotel staff insisted they didn't touch the system. Tech experts found no bugs or malware. It was as if room 305 erased itself and its guest from the world every week. Arman had seen many strange cases, but this one felt like it was watching him back. He booked room 305 under a fake name. Next Sunday, he'd check in, and he'd make sure someone finally checked out. Detective Arman Malik arrived at Hotel Belgrave just after dusk, suitcase in hand, using the alias Mr. Karim Shah. The receptionist, a pale, nervous young man named Elias, barely made eye contact as he handed over the key to room 305. "We've updated the CCTV this week," Elias mumbled. "Just routine maintenance." Arman gave a curt nod. He noticed the man's trembling hands. The elevator creaked as it rose. Floor 3 was quiet, too quiet. The hallway had aging wallpaper, faded floral patterns, and a stale smell that clung to the walls. As he approached room 305, a subtle chill ran through him, like walking into a place already claimed by silence. The room was neat but old-fashioned. Thick curtains, beige carpet, an old wall clock ticking too loudly. Arman set up hidden cameras of his own, wired to a battery pack and his laptop. If the hotel's system failed again, he'd still have eyes. 11:47 p.m. He brewed coffee, sat on the edge of the bed, watched the hallway feed on his screen. 12:38 a.m. The lights flickered. A soft click echoed in the hallway as if a door opened, then closed. 1:00 a.m. The hotel CCTV feed went black. So did his private feed. All screens dead. Then came the knock. 3 slow, deliberate taps on the door of room 305. Arman's pulse spiked. He reached for his gun. He hadn't expected company. Arman stepped silently toward the door, his gun drawn. Another knock echoed, this time slower, heavier, as if the knuckles on the other side weren't human. 3 knocks. A pause. Then the doorknob twisted, but the chain lock held. "Who's there?" Arman barked. No reply. He threw open the door, gun raised. The hallway was empty. No footsteps, no echo, just the steady hum of the old elevator motor far down the corridor. He stepped out, scanned both sides. Nothing. When he turned back toward the room, the door was wide open, but he hadn't opened it all the way. Inside, the room was pitch black. He hadn't turned the lights off either. Arman rushed in. His equipment, camera, laptop was gone. In their place sat an old dust-covered VHS tape and a note scrawled in red ink. "You watched us, now we'll show you." He picked up the tape. It was labeled 305. They stayed. A sudden pain shot through, his head sharp, paralyzing. He stumbled back onto the bed. The room spun. The clock read 3:03 a.m., and then just as suddenly it stopped ticking. Everything went silent. No hum, no creak, not even the sound of his own breath. He tried to stand but couldn't move. Behind him, the bathroom door creaked open, and a voice, low and whispering, said, "Now it's your turn to vanish." Arman tried to scream, but his voice wouldn't obey. He was frozen, his limbs heavy like lead. The clock had stopped at 3:03 a.m. and so had time. Even the curtains hung in midair, unmoving despite the breeze that had swept in earlier. The voice behind him whispered again, closer this time. They all resisted to. At first, he forced his fingers to move, bit his tongue to wake himself. Pain returned, real grounding. With a desperate burst of will, Arman flung himself off the bed and rolled toward the bathroom. It was empty, no figure, no shadow, just an old mirror, cracked down the center. On the foggy glass, someone had written, "Play the tape before dawn, or stay here forever." He snatched the VHS tape from the floor. But room 305 didn't have a player. His phone had no signal, no Wi-Fi, no way to reach anyone. But the landline on the bedside table began to ring, a dull mechanical tone, like it hadn't been used in years. He picked it up. Static. Then a voice whispered, "You've seen the door. Now see what lies beneath." Click. Suddenly, the carpet near the window bubbled like something beneath was moving. Arman pulled the rug back. There was a wooden trapdoor. Room 305 wasn't just a room, it was an entrance. The trapdoor was old, sealed with rusted nails and an iron ring. Arman pried it open with a metal coat hanger, each creak of the wood like a scream in the silence. Dust rose in a cloud, and the scent that followed was foul like damp earth and old rot. A narrow wooden staircase led downward into total darkness. He grabbed his phone, no flashlight. He lit the old wall-mounted lamp. Its flame flickered erratically, but held. Arman descended slowly. Each step groaned. Halfway down, he noticed something scratched into the wall: initials, names, numbers, dozens of them. A. Hey, 11, Noltiga, 21 Kelvin F. July 18th, 22. LT. The 11th of February 23, the most recent said. ES. July 21st, 25, just a week ago. At the bottom, a narrow stone corridor stretched forward. A low hum buzzed through the air like a heartbeat. Then he saw it, a metal door, bolted shut. Next to it, an old television on a metal cart with a VHS player. It was already on. The screen flickered. Snow, then an image. A woman, sitting in room 305, terrified, crying. Suddenly, the screen split. Multiple frames, dozens of guests, one after another, all in room 305, all screaming, all disappearing. One frame zoomed in. It was Arman, sitting on the bed, but filmed from inside the mirror. He hadn't been alone after all. Arman stared at the screen in disbelief. The footage was dated today. Timestamp 2:47 a.m. He was on the screen, sitting on the bed, drinking coffee, adjusting his hidden camera exactly as he had. But the camera angle was impossible. It was filming from inside the mirror. His reflection didn't match his actions. While he moved slightly, the reflection turned its head and stared directly into the lens. Bennett smiled and whispered, "He's watching now." The screen crackled and switched frames. Now it showed each previous guest caught in moments of fear before being dragged off screen by unseen hands. One screamed a name: Elias, the receptionist. Arman rewound the tape to that exact moment. The woman's face was pale, shaking, crying, "Elias, please. You said I'd be safe." A loud bang echoed behind him. The corridor door was wide open. Someone or something had unlocked it. He stepped inside slowly. A narrow chamber stretched ahead, lit by a flickering red bulb. In the center was an altar of sorts, and photos, hundreds pinned across the walls. Missing persons, all guests of room 305. In the corner sat Elias, bound and gagged, eyes wild with terror. Arman rushed to him, untied him. "Elias, what is this?" Elias shook his head violently. "We don't have time. They had to—" "No, you've seen the tape. You can't leave now." "Who's they?" Arman demanded. Elias whispered, "The ones who live between the mirrors. And you just let them out." Elias trembled, his eyes darting to every surface as if expecting something to crawl out. "They were trapped in reflections," he whispered, "until someone may set them free." Arman stared, gun still drawn. "Start explaining now." "It began years ago," Elias continued. "The hotel was built on top of something ancient. A man named Warren Belgrave opened it after returning from a cult in the Carpathians. He believed mirrors were portals, that beings could use them to enter our world." "And room 305?" Arman asked. "It was the experiment. He lined the walls with mirror-backed wallpaper and sealed the door each night. The guests were sacrifices. He said the room needed souls to keep the passage closed." "Then why are they here now?" Elias looked ashamed. "I thought I could end it. I smashed the original mirror 3 months ago. But instead of closing the door, I shattered it. Now they don't need mirrors, they only need to be seen." Suddenly, the TV screen in the other room came back to life. It showed Arman and Elias standing in the chamber right now from an overhead view. Arman looked up. There was no camera above, just a small, dusty mirror. The reflection didn't match. Elias was gone from it, but something else stood beside Arman. Grinning. Arman stumbled back, eyes locked on the mirror. His reflection, still standing upright, was no longer mimicking his movements. It raised its hand while his own stayed at his side. The grin on its face widened unnaturally. Then the reflection stepped forward. Out of the mirror, the air split. With a sharp, glassy hiss, the thing wore his face, but its eyes were bottomless voids. Its smile stretched too far, cracking the skin at the edges. Its voice echoed, layered, and distorted. "You opened the door. You broke the seal. Now you will take their place." Arman raised his gun and fired. The bullet passed through the figure and shattered a mirror behind it. Elias screamed, "No, you can't break them now." But it was too late. The mirror exploded in a burst of darkness. From each shard, thin, black, limbs crawled out. Dozens of them. Faces twisted and wrong, slid through the cracks in the air like shadows turning solid. Elias grabbed Arman's arm. "There's only one way left. We trap them again. How the mirror in room 301 behind the wallpaper to source? We seal it. From the inside. You want us to go back in there?" "We don't have a choice," Elias said, pulling him toward the stairwell. Behind them, the crawling things followed, silent, smiling. Room 305 wasn't just a haunted room anymore, it was becoming the gateway. Arman and Elias sprinted up the narrow stairwell, the air behind them pulsing like a living thing. Every light flickered violently as if the building itself was panicking. The moment they reached the 3rd floor, a deafening silence fell. Not a creak, not a hum, just the unnatural stillness that had haunted room 305 all along. They burst into the room. Nothing had changed. Same ticking clock, same still curtains. But the mirror, once cracked, was now whole again, gleaming. Something inside it moved, like smoke swirling just beneath glass. Elias ran to the wall and began tearing off Wallpaper? Behind it, the true mirror was revealed. A massive pane stretching from floor to ceiling, bordered in symbols too old to recognize. It's a seal, Elias said, breathless. Warren carved these to keep them in. We have to reactivate it. How we need blood, Elias whispered, a willing sacrifice. That's how we bound them the first time. Arman's eyes narrowed. You knew this would happen. That I'd have to choose. A sudden crash behind them. More of the creatures had found the room. Dozens of figures, some resembling past guests, moved unnaturally, limbs jerking like broken puppets. Elias turned, eyes wet. I deserve it. I let them out. Use me. Arman hesitated, heart pounding. The mirror pulsed. Time was collapsing, and the gateway was about to break completely. He had one bullet left, one life to offer. The room shook violently as the mirror began to glow, emitting a low, throbbing hum like the heartbeat of something massive and ancient. The creatures entered, surrounding the edges of room 305, yet never crossing the line of salt Elias had poured earlier. Arman stared at Elias, torn. You knew someone would have to die. Elias nodded, tears running down his face. But I never thought I'd have to watch it happen. I thought I could fix it alone. The symbols on the mirror began to fade one by one, blinking out like dying stars. You have seconds, Elias said. It must be willing. The mirror knows. Arman raised the gun, but then paused. I have another way, he muttered. He pulled out a small shard from the broken hallway, mirror's edge sharp, glinting with residual energy. He turned it toward the massive mirror. Light bent. The mirror pulsed. And then something screamed inside. I'm not giving a life, Arman whispered. I'm giving the reflection back. The mirror began to crack. The creatures howled in agony. Distorted by the clash of reflections, the faces of the vanished guests began to appear inside the mirror. Dozens, maybe hundreds. They weren't gone. They were trapped. The last symbol reignited in crimson light. The mirror sucked the creatures back one by one, dragging their shrieking forms like torn shadows into the glass. The room exploded in blinding white. Then silence. Just Arman and Elias, gasping for breath, and one final name carved into the mirror. AM sealed. Smoke filled the corners of room 305. Elias coughed violently, falling to his knees as the last of the creatures vanished into the cracked mirror. The mirror itself had dimmed, no longer pulsing but faint shapes still twisted behind the glass, like memories refusing to die. Arman stood in front of it, face pale. His name M sealed was etched into the bottom corner in the same ancient script as the others. You tricked it, Elias whispered. You didn't give it your life. You gave it theirs. I gave it balance, Arman said. Their reflections belonged here, not in the real world. The seal needed order. Elias looked up. Then why is your name on it? Before Arman could reply, the mirror began to glow softly again, not violently, but steadily. It was no longer a portal, but a prison, and Arman had become its guardian. He walked to the desk and placed the VHS tape back on it. It instantly turned to ash. I can't leave, he said quietly. Not fully. I'm tied to the seal now. Elias staggered toward the door, hesitant. What do I tell them? Arman looked over his shoulder. Tell them no one checks out of room 305? But sometimes someone stays behind to keep the rest of us safe. Elias opened the door. Behind him, room 305 darkened, and Arman was gone. But the mirror still showed his reflection. Watching, always watching. A week passed. Hotel Belgrave reopened quietly. Under new management, the police filed the missing persons cases away as cold. Room 305 remained untouched, locked, unbooked, and removed from the hotel's online listings. But strange things began to happen again. Guests on the third floor reported hearing whispers. At night, soft knocks on their doors, flickers in mirrors that didn't match their movements. Housekeeping refused to go near room 305. One staff member quit after claiming he saw his own reflection blink. When he didn't, Elias stayed on as manager, out of guilt or duty. No one knew. Every night at 3:03 a.m., he stood outside room 305 and waited. For what? He couldn't explain. Then, one stormy night, a stranger arrived. A woman, soaked in rain, no luggage, no ID. She asked for a room. All the others were full except one. Elias hesitated. You sure you want to stay here? She smiled faintly. Yes, I was drawn to it. He handed her the key to room 305 with shaking hands. As she walked away, Elias looked at the old mirror in the lobby. For a second, just a second, he saw Arman standing in room 305. Behind the woman, watching still, guarding still trapped, and as the elevator doors closed behind her, the lobby lights flickered. Room 305 was never meant to stay empty, not for long.